What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to another edition of the Reception Perception Mailbag, brought to you by ZBiotics. Make their pre-alcohol probiotic your first drink of the night for a better tomorrow. Engineered by a team of PhD microbiologists, pre-alcohol is a probiotic drink that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol, which is responsible for those rough days after drinking. More info on our partnership with them coming up later in the show, but because ZBiotics is a great sponsor, I have one of their pre-alcohol drinks to enjoy here before we get started. And since I've taken my pre-alcohol, I can now enjoy a little glass of wine while I go through some of your questions here for the Reception Perception Mailbag. It's a nice Merlot out of Washington State. Great area for wine in the U.S. So with that, let's get right into it. First question from our Discord subscribers at Reception Perception is from Alan Woohoo, who asks, with Egbuka's injury lining up right after Mike Evans is about to return, how do you see this wide receiver room looking after everyone returns healthy? Great question. And just the Emeka Egbuka injury, now that's something that makes me want to take a little drink here. I mean, geez. Egbuka was balling out of control, really, before this injury. And James and I broke this down. We have a video on the channel that you guys can check out where he wasn't just winning in the ways that we thought he would as a prospect in kind of the big slot Amon-Ra St. Brown type role. He actually had been winning as an outside on the line of scrimmage player. So kind of that more traditional X receiver role in this offense. Now he was running routes from condensed formations, condensed splits, all that type of stuff. I understand that part of it. So not true boundary, Nico Collins, George Pickens, X receiver type work, but he was winning outside against man coverage on the line of scrimmage, working against press. Once Egbuka's back and Mike Evans is on the field, I think it sounds like Mike Evans is going to return here for week number 7. I think Egbuka goes back to moving around the formation, playing slot, playing flanker, but I love that I've seen him win at an over 70% rate against man coverage and reception perception in the in-season charting tracker. That's where he's been so far, but he's uniquely good against zone coverage for a rookie. Right now, he's pacing to beat all of the 2024 rookies in success rate versus zone coverage and reception perception, which is actually not that surprising because he was a better zone beater as a prospect than all of those guys as well. So he's awesome. I think it's going to be very close, if not favoring Egbuka in terms of who's the wide receiver 1 on this team when Mike Evans is back. The question here is Chris Godwin. Unfortunately, it just looks like this season's trending towards kind of a lost year for Godwin. He's coming back from a serious injury. He's now dealing with a fibula injury that they say is not in relation to what he is coming back from. This is something different. I don't know if that should make me feel better or worse. So I just think 2026 might be Chris Godwin's sort of return to form, not 2025. I think that, again, that clears the runway for Egbuka to be awesome the rest of the season. Again, be very close with Mike Evans, who's still very good. Like, Mike Evans doesn't look like he's declined at all yet. Again, coming off an injury, but Emeka will also be coming off an injury. So I think those guys will be close. I'm totally buying everything Egbuka's done so far. And guys like Tez Johnson looks like a nice deep threat role player. Sterling Shepard, my guy, Sterling Shepard, still making clutch plays for this awesome football team and this really good offense. I think he can chip in as a slot receiver when Chris Godwin is not in the lineup. So that's sort of how I'm viewing this Bucs wide receiver room as we go through the rest of the season. Next question comes in from Rich14. With how the league is changing at wide receiver, more of an emphasis on zone beating over the middle routes, does this change how you view the X receiver types? Does this offer less upside for a guy like T-Mac, Tetero McMillan? I think this is a great question and one I'm thinking a lot about right now. This has kind of been on my radar the last couple of years in terms of emphasizing and putting more focus on this particular archetype of wide receiver, the zone beaters, the over-the-middle dominators. Just had a great conversation on the Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays about this. People can check that out. I would encourage you. It's a really good podcast episode, kind of unpacking some of those thoughts. Just think of it as guys like, and these aren't all exactly the same type of players, but the Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown archetype. Then I think there are guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's different than those players, little bit more of a route winner on the outside, a little bit more of a true separator, I guess, against man coverage, although those two guys have really improved every single season. Puka and Amon-Ra St. Brown winning against man coverage and winning in the short areas, kind of bursting off the line of scrimmage. So again, there's some overlap here. Emeka Egbuka, who we just talked about, perfectly fits into this archetype, which is why he has been smashing to start his NFL career. I wouldn't say that that makes me less bullish on X receiver types. We know here at Reception Perception that man coverage success rate is still the most predictive of the success rates in terms of predicting future performance, predicting future fantasy points. That's something I've been working on the back end, sort of testing that stability. It's the most stable of the metrics, and it's also the most predictive of next season production and correlates well with current production. So that's still important, even though the league is zone heavy. Again, I don't want to get too deep into the mechanics of how some places chart versus I chart, but a lot of zone coverage turns into basically man coverage reps where it's match coverage on the perimeter for some of these wide receivers. So the ability to win against man coverage, that is not any less important. That's not trending down. It's just that these zone beater types are more important than ever because of the structures of modern defenses and where you want to attack two high safeties over the middle of the field. So again, I do think while that archetype is more important, there are X receiver types who can still be incredibly productive NFL players. I think it just takes the right quarterback and the right offense. And I also think that if you're a number one wide receiver and you're only lining up at X, I think it's not a problem, but just makes life harder than it needs to. I think you're doing it's an injustice. It's a disservice to that wide receiver to not move him around. Luckily for Tedder McMillan specifically, he wins on over the middle routes, really good on dig routes. He's been so far in the NFL. That's looked true. It was definitely true as a prospect. I think he can move around a little bit more and do some of this stuff than maybe he has so far. They just need another receiver to emerge in Carolina so that they can move him around the formation more. I want to sort of use this moment to transition to the next question. But first, which is, again, a great transition here because Stows99 asks, what have wide receivers done to become so fragile? And I do want to loop this back with the last question we just talked about, which is these zone-beating wide receivers working over the middle of the field. There is a chance, and it's just a theory I'm kind of kicking around the head. It's not like a take I have. Like, I'm not saying this for sure just yet, but those wide receivers have to play with more violence. Even if it's not your dad's NFL or your grandpa's NFL, you're still taking more hits over the middle than you are if you're the number one wide receivers we grew up with, the X receiver types who are winning out of the boundary, running like goes and curls, and you're going out of bounds. You're not taking as much punishment out there. Will we see higher injury rates for wide receivers with some of these over the middle route winners? And again, it's just a theory right now, but you just think about the players who are hurt at the current moment. Puka Nacua, literally who we just talked about, Emeka Egbuka, who we said fits in this archetype. Garrett Wilson has been getting a lot more of this style of usage than in his previous seasons. He's now potentially dealing with a multi-week injury. CeeDee Lamb goes over the middle. He's a slot first receiver. And even Tyreek Hill, he runs a lot of those over the middle deep dig routes. A little bit less this year than he has previously. But again, it's just a theory. It's just something I'm kicking around in the head because we have seen, at least it feels like we've seen top level wide receiver injury rates go up over the last couple of years. So just something to note and something we'll continue to track and monitor here at Reception Perception. Next question. HK Pants says the season started with Michael Pittman being the Colts lead receiver, but over the last couple of weeks, Josh Downs has outperformed Pittman. Has the offense changed since the start of the season, or is it just game script dependent? Well, I want to give a shout out to Michael Pittman here because he was a guy that I think, and maybe I'm among this group, right? Because I said last season, Josh Downs was clearly their best wide receiver, and I stand by that. But you also have to remember Michael Pittman was dealing with a back injury last year, because when Michael Pittman has been healthy, he's been awesome in reception perception, hovering around 74% success rate versus man coverage, 3 straight years over 80% success rate versus zone from 21, 22, and 23. and over 80% success rate versus press. Like, those are some of the best numbers in the league for any wide receivers. Michael Pittman is a baller and a really consistent player, and also kind of fits into this wide receiver archetype, the over the middle slasher types that we're discussing here. So I think it will be close between these guys over the course of the year, and Downs has definitely closed the gap. He's narrowed that gap over the last couple of weeks, actually leads the team in targets over the last 3 weeks. The deal is that this is just a crowded offense. Like, Tyler Warren is a badass. I don't remember who said it, but I saw somebody note that Tyler Warren is actually averaging more yards per route run right now than Brock Bowers did in his historic rookie season as a tight end last year. So Warren is a baller. I think Alec Pierce has added new layers to his game as more than just the go route, slant route, stop route guy. He's winning in some more unique ways on in-breaking routes, and Daniel Jones is getting the football to all these guys. So I think like Pittman will have chapters of the season. Downs looks like he's having a chapter of the season right now. And Warren obviously will be more of a constant at tight end. Pierce will come in and out. By the way, Jonathan Taylor, also badass in the pass game and the run game. They're one of the best rushing teams in the NFL right now. So Josh Downs has been excellent on film. I just put up an in-season sample on him on the website, in the in-season tracker, in the in-season charting notebook for week 6. Downs is awesome. He's a great separator. He's just one of these guys that is the smaller slot types, doesn't consistently play in 3 receiver sets, although he did play a lot, or excuse me, he only really plays in 3 receiver sets, did take a little tick up in terms of his snaps outside on the line in more so 2 receiver sets last week. So I'm tracking that. I'm noticing that. Still don't know if he's going to be a full-time snap share guy just because of his given role in this offense. But he's absolutely a baller, total stud of a player. Just from a fantasy standpoint, I think we do have to expect some volatility because of his route participation numbers overall. Next question here is from Digital Jacob. From what you've seen from Travis Hunter, how valuable can his current role as a slot-only wide receiver be for fantasy this year? Is he just a stash until next season, or can you see him making the most of his opportunities as he improves? Okay, I'm not going to go too long on the Travis Hunter thing here, but it is a complicated and nuanced situation. For one, let's acknowledge he's trying to play both ways. He is not just trying to be a wide receiver only. He's playing some cornerback, he's playing defense, and he's playing on offense. James and I discussed Liam Cohen's comments about how he's only going to learn the F wide receiver position in his rookie season. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean he's only going to play in the slot. He has kicked outside on some of the full speed motions. His routes and snaps and actually work outside has ticked up over the last 2 games. Ran a season high in terms of route participation last week, drew 7 targets, just didn't get targets down the football field, but he is running more routes down the football field, which I think is encouraging. I think his routes are starting to tighten up as well. You know, this is something when I talked about him as a prospect where he was an elite separator at Colorado in the Big 12 or whatever the hell conference it is at this point against some lighter competition. Elite separator, not yet an elite route runner just yet. He needs to learn some of the nuances and the finer details, but once he gets those down, the potential is still sky high for this guy. Now, from a fantasy football standpoint, I think he's probably a stash this season, maybe a hold, but I'm really interested to see what he looks like coming out of the bye week, because I think maybe he has some time on the damn plane ride to London this week, on the plane flying back, you know, like he can dial more into the playbook. Then he goes into a bye. You could tell his head is still swimming. He's lining up off sides. He's, throwing his hands up, looking for the play call when Trevor Lawrence audibles and changes the play at the line of scrimmage. There's a lot of new here in this Jaguars offense, including Travis Hunter himself being new to the NFL and like adjusting to running routes at this level. But I still think you see a lot of promise when you isolate in on him individually. Like Tenero McMillan and Mecca Egbuka are going to have better rookie seasons than him. No question. But like, we don't just judge rookies off their rookie seasons. Remember what Rome Odunze was doing as a rookie. Now he's balling out this season. That's my hope for Travis Hunter. Do I wish it was just like right away, smash? Yeah. And, the all green route chart looks great and all that stuff. 100%. But it's not quite there just yet. That doesn't mean I'm panicking on him forever. Speaking of rookies, let's get to this next question here from D_Shred first. Man, if a couple of years ago, if you told me I was going to choose wine for this segment, I might have thought you were crazy, but love it. And I'm enjoying this. D Shred sends in, of these 4 rookie wide receivers, who haven't done much this season. Whom are you most concerned about long term? Trey Harris, Jalen Knoll, Kyle Williams, or Jack Besh? Okay, so I'm not really concerned about any of them because, again, these are rookie wide receivers. They're day two guys. They're not players that, we're just going to moonwalk into instant roles. If it takes them time to develop, it's totally okay. We don't have to judge these rookies too harshly. So truly concerned about any of them? None. I would say it's been really encouraging to see Jack Besh finally get on the field. Dante Thornton, kind of predictable that the Raiders overthought that, like just getting speed on the perimeter, but Thornton is more of a developmental guy. Besh, I think, is ready to play. And now they're putting Besh on the field. Thornton didn't run a route last week. Besh, meanwhile, over 80%. Like, I think Besh is really trending up and somebody I'm super curious to see if he gets more work over the course of the season. Feeling good about where he's at right now. Jalen Knoll, I want to see what he looks like coming out of the bye. I'm maybe a little bit concerned that that's kind of a crowded room for the rest of this season, but when I've seen him on the field, I think he belongs. I think he looks explosive. I think he separates. So not really too concerned about him. Trey Harris might be the guy that I think could be blocked from being a top 2 wide receiver on his team for the next couple of seasons because Quentin Johnston's breakout is real. Ladd McConkey is still a baller. Don't freak out about the early season start for him. He's still very, very good. Now, Keenan Allen obviously might just be a 1-year rental, and his production has trended down of late. And Trey Harris did actually get a bunch of playing time last week against the Dolphins with QJ out. And I thought he played well. Not only did he look like he belonged from a receiver perspective, the guy was blocking his ass off. They've been very, very excited about what they've seen from Trey Harris. They think he's a dog. They think he's a grinder. So he's, again, maybe from like a dynasty perspective, I'm a little concerned he might only at best be the wide receiver 3 there with QJ playing the way he is right now. But again, I like what I saw from him this past week, so don't want to slam him too much. Kyle Williams is the one that I kind of wish he had been getting some more playing time. At the same time, Stephon Diggs looks good, really good the last 3 weeks. It obviously had a couple of big games, a little bit of a down week last week, but ticky-tack OPI penalty. I still think Diggs is trending in a really good direction this year. Kayshon Boutte has really emerged as their, vertical X receiver, a little bit sacrificial. We actually got a question, and I'll just hit this now about Kayshon Boutte. Do you have you capitulated on Kayshon Boutte? No, I wish I hadn't used the word fluke, but I still feel like like the analysis I wrote up on him for reception perception was completely accurate. Like, you're gonna expect volatility in a role like that, but he's playing in that role really well. I actually think it would benefit him to move out of the X receiver position, and like, we've seen that volatility that's going to come in that role from a production standpoint. Big week 1, big last week, everything in between there, a little bit hit or miss from a production standpoint, but good player in that role. So again, I understand why Williams hasn't just kicked Kayshon Boutte to the curb. Also, shout out Kayshon Boutte for like legitimately turning his life around and saving his career. That guy's awesome. Shout out to him. Can Kyle Williams get on the field as more of a slot focused guy? I want to see that from him at some point this year, but I know Mike Vrabel's very conservative with rookies, so I don't want to freak out too much about that. But he's kind of the one I'm looking at most in terms of this bucket of players that I all had similarly graded. Jalen Knoll was just the guy I was highest on. All right. Hey, guys, let's take a quick break to tell you about our sponsor, ZBiotics. Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I do not bounce back the next day like I used to. I thought I had to make a choice, either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found pre-alcohol. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that is to blame for your rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break that byproduct down. So just remember, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you're going to feel your best tomorrow. Personal story here. I was a ZBiotics consumer before this sponsorship, before this partnership. So I was very excited to work with them because I believe in the product. I legitimately use it because, listen, I'm trying to consume less alcohol generally now. I'm trying to drink less. It's one of my personal goals. That being said, I still love to go out with my wife to some of the wineries here in Virginia. Love the vibe. It's really just a great time to be outdoors, see new areas. We've really, really enjoyed like the Charlottesville area with wineries there. That's been awesome. But even like going out to dinner, just having a bottle of wine with a great meal, it enhances the experience, brings us together. It just makes for a great time. So I don't want to then have to sacrifice the next day. I want to get up and feel my best and crush it. I want to be able to get working on charting some new receivers, get my steps in the morning. With ZBiotics, I don't have to sacrifice anymore. I can still have a great night and get up and crush it the next day. So go to ZBiotics.com/RP to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use RP at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they're going to refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, ZBiotics.com/RP and use the code RP at checkout for 15% off. There will be a link in the description below. All right, back to your questions. First. All right, back to your questions. Number 7 question of the day. Metabolic Eel sends in, how do you compare CeeDee Lamb and Malik Nabers long-term / which would you rather have in Dynasty? Curious how Jackson Dart has started and how much Dak has been slinging it this year. Changes your opinion on these two guys for the next 3 years or so. One, I just want to say, man, Malik Nabers is such a bummer that he is not here for the Jackson Dart, Cam Scattaboo, just outrageous good vibes time with the New York Giants right now. It would be sick to see a larger sample size, to your point, Metabolic Eel, with these two guys together. I still need to see more from Jackson Dart before I think he's truly a needle mover in terms of Malik Nabers' dynasty outlook. I think it's really close between these two guys. I think that I would go with CeeDee Lamb. I'm generally a little bit more conservative when it comes to the older players versus the younger players. And I've just seen CeeDee Lamb operate at an elite level for multiple years now. Unfortunately, we're not getting to see that with Nabers here because he's injured in his second season. No reason to worry about him long-term. I think he's going to be awesome when he comes back. Knock on wood, the injury is not a long-term thing. I think he's going to be great. But I know CeeDee Lamb can operate at an elite level, and I know that Dak Prescott is a baller. He's been awesome this year. Really excited about him the rest of the season in this offense. So give me CeeDee Lamb just slightly in terms of dynasty, but I still have no hesitations being all in on Nabers as a long-term wide receiver one. The guy is excellent, and we already know he can survive, if not thrive, with bad quarterback play. Speaking of Cowboys wide receivers, Kyle Gregory asks, is it likely that George Pickens still will have these semi-regular ceiling games when CeeDee Lamb returns? He's not going to be the wide receiver 3 overall in fantasy football when CeeDee Lamb is back. Let's get that out of the way. But I don't think anybody's expecting him to be that. Everybody knows CeeDee Lamb is coming back. Like, you can't sell George Pickens to some idiot in your league that doesn't have an internet connection. We all know that CeeDee Lamb is coming back, unless you're just in a league with a bunch of dudes who only sort by points scored. Maybe you are. But generally, I think everybody knows CeeDee Lamb's coming back. When Pickens and Lamb are on the field together, I'm still really excited about George Pickens. He's been not playing in a new role. He got a little more slot work in the last game, but for the most part, he's just been an X receiver, winning against press man coverage, looks better than ever. He's gotten so much better over the course of his career. He looks awesome out there right now. Again, dominating in the ways we want from an X receiver. Him and Dak Prescott are perfect too. They just have a great connection. He wins on the routes that Dak loves to throw. And shout out to Brian Schottenheimer, has used George Pickens on more dig routes than ever before. 20% of his routes have been dig routes in the games I've charted this year. That easily soars past his previous career highs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pickens has been good on those routes. Dak has been throwing them with timing, and he's making big plays, especially last week. So I'm very excited about Pickens the rest of the way. And frankly, if I have him in Dynasty, I want him to stay in Dallas. Like, yeah, the grass is not always greener, being the number 1 theoretically somewhere else. Being Dak Prescott's quote number 2 receiver, not a bad gig at all. All right, next one is from Adam_PC. Thoughts on Ladd McConkey's slow start? Is he still an alpha, ultra efficient wide receiver, or should we be cautious about him rest of season? I think Ladd's slow start is really nothing to freak out about. We do have to adjust, and I think we have adjusted expectations for him this season compared to what we were thinking in July. when, Keenan Allen wasn't on the team, when we didn't know that Quentin Johnson was going to have this breakout third season, but QJ has legitimately broken out. And Keenan Allen, while he has trended down from a production standpoint, he still holds a critical role and he has Herbert's trust. So Ladd's, I think the expectations for this year have come down a little bit, but that doesn't mean he's going to be a complete bust of a fantasy pick. He's still somebody I'd want in Dynasty. Now, to the point of, is he an alpha or an ultra efficient wide receiver? I do wonder if he's a guy that can ever be a true 150 target type player. I'm not sure he's built that way. I'm not sure the Chargers want him taking that much punishment, but he can be ultra efficient. No question about that. As a matter of fact, the guy that I compared him to is a prospect. So before his rookie year, and his rookie year profile did look an awful lot like this player. That was Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. And Lockett was never a high volume guy. He was more, you had to rely on efficiency to get it done for him. So that's kind of how I'm viewing Ladd McConkey. Is he ever going to be like a top 5 most productive receiver in the league because of the targets and all that? Maybe not, but I think he can make the most of his looks, and we're starting to see that the last couple of weeks. Really no problems with Ladd, the player. It's just been, hey, it's a more spread out target tree than we probably would have thought over the summer, pre-Keenan and pre-QJ breakout. All right, next question here comes from Ice Daddy. What a name. Seems like Chris Olave is really being held to a shallow ADOT. Is this just due to lackluster supporting cast and QB limitations? Kellen Moore seemed to use Devontae Smith in a much more balanced way. I do think that there's a couple different things here. I actually think Spencer Rattler's played really well. He is 12th in success rate overall this season, just in terms of EPA-based success rate. He's been pretty good. He's been at least, what do you want to say? You want to say like an average starting quarterback, maybe even slightly above average at times. He's been limiting mistakes. He's not taking a lot of sacks. He's not committing a bunch of turnovers. He's been especially good working outside the numbers. Really good working outside the numbers, as a matter of fact. I wrote up Chris Olave for the week 2 charting notebook and showed the ways in which they're weaponizing Chris Olave in this offense. Motion, slot work, a different route tree, and Spencer Rattler maximizing Chris Olave on some of these quick out routes, which have just been like targets, get the ball in his hand, keep the offense on schedule. I really love the way Kellen Moore has designed this offense. I'm very excited. If you're a Saints fan, I'd be excited about what Kellen Moore is going to bring this team long term. And I'd be excited about what I've seen from Spencer Rattler. The one area that I think he needs to get better is working over the intermediate middle of the field. Between the numbers, 10 plus air yards right now, he is 28th in success rate. So 12th overall, 28th in this area. That needs to improve for Chris Olave, who's been getting a lot of usage there, to really pay off. But while I think Olave overall is playing well, if we're calling balls and strikes here, if we're being fair, he has left players on the field. Contested situations, some places would chart them as drops. Sometimes they're near misses, but definitely in contested situations, Olave needs to finish better there. He has done that at times over the course of his career, not as much this season. That's one area where Olave needs to take the step up to be like a true number one at the level that his volume is telling us right now, but his production is not telling us. So some of it is QB limitations. Some of it is Olave just has to finish those plays, and I think he can do that a little bit better going forward. All right, next question from Z Lanners. Who is the biggest what if that you charted in your time doing reception perception, whether it's because of the surrounding environment or injury, or someone you just never got there with fantasy production to the same degree that their film would have suggested? Okay, so I have actually been doing some back testing on reception perception, success rates, what correlates to what, how predictive is it? Hopefully I can share some of that information after this season. I will say I've been hesitant to do this, like average all the success rates together, because I think RP is best consumed when you take in each individual variable and put it in context with the individual player's profile. But if you average success rate versus man, zone, and press together, it actually becomes the most predictive thing we can do in terms of next season fantasy points. So, maybe that's better for marketability, but I care more about, consuming the content and like what makes it best informative and fair to the players. So again, maybe James will fight me on that. Maybe some of the other forces here at RP will fight me on this, but we'll see what happens there. But I can say, if you just average the success rates out, the player who is been in the top 25 that's never had a 10 plus points per game season is easily Rashad Bateman, who last season was incredible as a separator. This season, he's not having a great year from a production standpoint. Even last season, 8.9 half PPR points per game. I think he probably counts as a big what if. Like, would he have been a different player? Like, there are other parts of his game that are not at the same level that his route running ability are. And so that's just sort of a part of why he doesn't get that volume. Also, some situational stuff. You know, he's another guy that I think could finish better on some of these plays, but he's probably a what if one. If he'd never got those injuries, if he'd just been like a clean run out as a first round pick, would his career have gone differently? But probably the true correct answer to this is Anthony Miller. I don't know if you guys remember Anthony Miller. He was a Bears draft pick. He is easily, like, when you scroll down through the average success rates for RP players, 2019 Anthony Miller was pretty damn good in reception perception. He was a prospect I really liked as well in that 2018 class. But the season that he was charted, 2019, 6.3 points per game. The next season, 5.3. And he had some like kind of clashes with the coaching staff. He's still, I don't know if he's on a roster right now, but he has been kicking around the league. I think he was with the Ravens most recently. Might still be on like their practice squad or something, but he's at least made a career for himself. But he's definitely somebody that I think in terms of NFL players that have never really had like a moment. All these guys that are good in reception perception, whether it's the next season or at some point during their careers, they have moments. It's very rare that a guy is excellent in reception perception and has no moments ever. Like even Willie Snead's another one who had a really, really good RP profile, and he had kind of a moment in the NFL, like 900 yards with the Saints, I believe, in his second season. Anthony Miller's the guy who like never really even had a moment. So he would probably be the biggest what if player there. All right. Next one comes in from Queasy. What is the best realistic trade for a wide receiver you could see at the deadline? I think, okay, if we're talking realistic, there are some big fish that I think could be available. AJ Brown, I think that's an untenable situation to me. I think something's got to happen there, but would the Eagles really want to trade AJ Brown? You know, I've been of the opinion very, very strongly that his film is nowhere close to where it's been in the last few years. Is that like the buildup of lower body injuries? Is it he's just disengaged with the process? He's just not performing at the level that he did last season when he was the number one success rate versus man coverage player. Again, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. He's somebody that I think could be available. But again, are the Eagles really itching to do that? What are they getting back in a trade? I don't know, but that feels like an untenable situation. DJ Moore, at least on my radar, that he could be somebody who is dealt, but he's currently dealing with an injury. Like, shout out to DJ Moore, a guy I've got to sit down with and have some good conversations with over the years about football and just playing the wide receiver position in general and like how you're used schematically in offense. He has just got out of the hospital with like a serious injury. So maybe not the best time to be talking about him as a trade candidate, but I do think if Luther Burden continues to show well, Moore could maybe be available. Two guys I think are realistic. First of all, the Saints guys, Olave, who we talked about, Rashid Shaheed. I think Shaheed could be available because he's on the last year of his deal. But the Saints are playing well with those guys. Like, I don't know if they're itching to trade players away, and they're usually not the trade away type. They actually traded for Devon Bailey to start the year. So two guys I do think are realistic, though. Jawan Jennings in San Francisco, that seems like another untenable situation. Very much on my radar. There's tension between him and the team because of the contract stuff in the offseason. They have Ricky Pearsall coming back. Brandon Ayuk at some point should be back. George Kittle should be back here pretty soon. Kendrick Bourne is kind of doing the 2024 Jawan Jennings impression in this offense. Could he be somebody that's made available? And Jacoby Myers in Las Vegas, like I mentioned earlier, Jack Besh playing more. I think he's kind of the long-term replacement for Myers in the slot. Trey Tucker has been a good zone beater for them, more of a vertical receiver. And obviously Brock Bowers should be back at some point. So Myers in the last year of his deal, he's somebody I could see traded at the deadline. The Giants should be calling on all these guys just to have someone out there for Jackson Dart to grow with over the course of the season. All right, let's finish it with two non-football questions. But first, excellent stuff. All right. Big Chuck sends in steak tutorial. What's your favorite cut? How do you prepare / cook it? Yeah, I threw a steak picture in the Discord a couple weeks ago. Went wild. Love to cook a steak. I don't really have a favorite cut. I don't discriminate. I love each individual cut for what it's worth. I think if like I'm just trying to hit a layup here, a good New York strip, pay for quality. I mean, everybody's got a different budget, but it's so worth it to get a really good quality cut of meat, especially a New York strip. I think that really does matter a lot. Get a good cut of it. I would say in terms of preparation, my one thing I would say is get a good probe thermometer. That makes all the difference in the world. Really worry about that temperature. Really focus on that. Don't try to do the finger touching thing. Get a good probe thermometer. Especially if it's one you can get hooks up to your phone. I'm not going to do any brand shout outs here in terms of probe thermometers because this is the ZBiotics program. But I do think that if you're looking for that, there's plenty of good options. Hit me in the Discord. I'm happy to share the one that I use. In terms of preparation, I think you can't beat a good reverse sear. Stick it in the oven, sub 250 degrees. Let it get close to the temp you want. Take it out and then rip that thing, sear it on like a hot cast iron stainless steel pan. If you are able to cook outside, you got a good charcoal grill. Again, I don't want to be a snob, but charcoal grill makes all the difference in the world. I have the Big Green Egg. I love to reverse sear in the oven, take it outside, slap it over the hot coals. Makes all the difference in the world. Absolutely can't beat it. So that's kind of the way I prepare. I will give a quick shout out to seasoning Hardcore Carnivore Black. It's a charcoal-based seasoning, but if you can handle some good flavor, which come on, guys, let's handle some good flavor here. That is one of the best bites of steak that you can possibly have. I could talk preparing steaks all day, but I won't. I will finish it off with this question here from Chitty30. When you were starting to eat/live healthier, how did you balance feeling validated with what you were doing the right thing regardless of your weight versus constantly wanting to see the number on the scale go down? I read the BYB article earlier this year and it started making me really think about this stuff. Yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar, the BYB article that Chitty references, it's my pinned tweet on Twitter right now. It has been for years. Article I wrote about how I lost 100 pounds. I went from like 330 to, at that time, I was like sub 230, way a little bit more than I did then because I've been more focused in the last year and a half, 2 years on bulking up and adding muscle. Just different goals, different times. That's one piece of advice I'd give for you guys. Like, adjust your goals based on what you're looking to do. Adjust your plan on what you're looking to do. Get with a professional if you can, a personal trainer, a nutritionist, something like that. Very much worth it. In terms of the weight, I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult when you constantly want to see that number go down, but you got to look beyond the scale. I started doing pictures, like progress pictures that I had never done before. That has really made a big difference for me because when you're stuck on like a number, you actually see, hey, I look really different because you might be adding more muscle and losing fat, but you're adding weight because you're gaining muscle, which in the long term is going to help you build fat. It's going to help your metabolism. It's going to make you better in the long run. So I would just encourage you, if you are looking to get on any sort of health journey, try not to overemphasize the scale. Try not to care too much about that. Yes, it's important. It's a good measure, but it's like getting in the neighborhood, not going through the front door. We're trying to go through the front door with our fitness and our health. We're all trying to live healthier, better, longer, happier lives. I personally did it, and it's the best decision I ever made. It's something I continue to try to get myself better with. Not perfect, for sure. Nobody is, but it's something I really care about. It's the most important thing that I've ever done for myself, all things included. So yeah, if anybody ever has questions about that, I'm sure I can't get back to everybody, but I would love to help as many people as possible on that. All right. That is going to do it for another episode of Reception Perception, the Mailbag. We're going to be doing these things monthly during the regular season. So if you're not in the Discord yet, make sure you jump in the Reception Perception Discord. It's free to join. You don't have to be a site subscriber, although we'd love it if you would check out receptionperception.com. More in-season charting than ever this year. So much good content happening there. The charting notebooks, the in-season charting tracker, tons of stuff. More work on Reception Perception in season than ever before. I think you'll absolutely love it. But if you just want to join the Discord and kick it around, you can participate in the next Mailbag episode, which we will be doing in November. In the meantime, we'd love it if you check out ZBiotics.com/RP. Use the code RP at checkout for 15% off. Again, it's a great product. Fully endorse it. You can check it out at the link below. With that, I'll see you all in the next one.